Good evening and welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals hearing. Let me introduce some members of town government that assist this board. To my left is Vincent Pizzulli, attorney to the board. To his left is Blaise Donadio, planner in the planning department. And to his left is David Barnes, assistant planning director. You are all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinances, and it's our job to try to help you achieve the relief you are requesting whenever possible. It's up to you to provide us with precise, accurate information so we as a board can make a decision based on the facts that you present here tonight. We as a board must consider the 5 following conditions. They're listed over here for you. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Number 2, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other means. Number 3, whether the variance is substantial. Number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order they are advertised. When you are called, please present your certificates of postings and mailings to Mr. Donadio. Then you will go to the podium where you will state your name and address for the record and proceed to tell us why you need your variance. At the end of your presentation, if anyone in the audience would like to speak on your case, they will be given 1 opportunity to do so. Then the applicant can come back to the podium to answer their concerns. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information will be accepted concerning the cases. There are 3 ways to find out about your case. You can stay after the hearing, but there's no guarantee that your case will be acted on tonight. You can call the planning office tomorrow, or you can wait and be notified by mail. We do have 1 adjournment, and that is case 18136, CNS Builders, Skunks Hollow Road. Was there anyone here for that case?
I'm opposed to it, so.
Oh. That has been adjourned to September 10th.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first case on the agenda is case number 18184, John Brennan, 258 Mount Pleasant Road, Hop Hog. The location of the property, the west side of Mount Pleasant Road, 141 feet north of Adrian Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to permit environmentally sensitive lands to be altered where depth to groundwater is less than 10 feet for a proposed 18-foot by 36-foot in-ground swimming pool.
Good evening.
Evening.
Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, it's John Brennan. I live at 258 Mount Pleasant Road, Hop Hog.
And you're here tonight, John?
I'm here for a variance for an in-ground pool.
Okay.
That's it. I was told I need a variance, so that's why I'm here.
Okay. All right. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
Yeah, did you get a test hole done?
Yes, I did.
What was the depth of the ground?
7 feet,
What's the proposed depth? The deep
6.5.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? You have a motion to close the application, please?
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
That's it? All right, thank you. Good night.
That's it. We could talk some more if you'd like.
Good night.
Good night.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18185, Paul Fagione, 142 Boxwood Drive, Kings Park, the location of the property, the southeast corner of Boxwood Drive and Delano Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to permit an accessory structure in the required front yard on Delano Lane and reduce the front yard from 40 feet to 20 feet for proposed 14-foot by 20-foot in-ground swimming pool.
Good evening.
How you doing? My name is Paul Fagioni. I live at 142 Boxwood Drive, Kings Park, New York. And I'm looking for a variance to put a 14 by 30 pool in. Delano, which I'm on the corner, Delano has an extreme curve to it, so it reduces that building line. So from where I want to put the pool is only 20 foot from the building line instead of 40 foot. I can't go over anymore because I'm, pretty close to the shed.
Right.
And I also have electric lines on that side of the property. So that's the only thing I could, there's nothing else I could do as far
Right.
as putting the pool in.
Yeah, the configuration of your property kind of dictates where that pool is.
Yeah,
gonna
it's like
go.
almost like a pie shape. In the front, it's 95 foot wide,
Right.
and in the back, it's narrowed down to 78 foot because of the curve in the street.
Okay. Anyone on the board have any questions? You want to ask for a test hole?
Yeah, sure.
Do you have the test hole done?
Oh, what?
The
Test
test
hole?
hole?
A test hole?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, you're not? Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Planning.
No comments on the application. And I just have one question for you. Do you have your affidavit of posting?
Affidavit of posting?
Thank you. That was it?
That's it. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please? Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next three cases on the agenda, 18186, 18187, and 18188, all involve three parcels of property that are adjacent to each other, and they could be handled as one hearing if you choose to. I can just read on the record for each case, and then we can proceed.
All right.
Okay?
Would you like to do it all in one? Yes.
Okay.
We'll do it
So,
one.
the first one is 18186, Decanio Management Corp. This is for 30 Somerset Drive in Smithtown. It is located on the south side of Somerset Drive, 50 feet east of Everett Place. The property is owned R43. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum lot size from 43,560 square feet to 40,531 square feet for a proposed single-family residence. The second lot is under application number 18187. 30 Somerset Drive in Smithtown. This is located at the terminus of Somerset and Everett Place. The applicant is asking for a variance to reduce the minimum frontage at the setback line from 150 feet to 145 feet for a proposed single-family residence. And the third application, under case number 18188, is for, again, 30 Somerset Drive. This is located at the south side of Somerset Drive, 50 feet east of Everett Place. The applicant is asking for variances to reduce the minimum road frontage from 40 feet to 0, reduce the minimum lot frontage at the setback line from 150 feet to 16 feet for an existing 1,900 square foot single-family dwelling with a 303 square foot detached garage.
Good evening.
Good evening. Vincent Canio, 17 Terry Road, Smithtown, New York. Thank you for allowing me to help and discuss it one time. I have copies of the original filed map that was filed in 1948 that specifically covers the first two applications for single-family dwelling. And then I have the overall Google overview map to show that it's consistent with the neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
So as Mr. Chairman and the board, clearly, this map was filed in 1948. We're not asking for any changes from the filed map. Both lots are approximately 1 acre. The only reason for the first application with regard to the setback line, the line was slightly tapered, so there's only 145 feet at the setback line, but there is 150 feet of road frontage. So we feel it conforms completely. We won't be asking for any variances at all to build the home. It fits into the building envelope, and it conforms with the map and the existing neighborhood. The second application, which is also in the front, and we can see it here, the green, the dark green is indicative of the first two lots. Even though it's in the river corridor, it's significantly away. It's flat land, pretty much. There's no topo problem whatsoever. And the second variance was the map itself in 1948 was filed slightly under the 43,560, but it is over 40,000 square feet, and it conforms otherwise. With that, we're going to, if it's approved, also it was supposed to be a full cul-de-sac. What exists today is only a half a cul-de-sac. So we would do the necessary town improvements, that there would be a full cul-de-sac that's shown on both plans and on the map that you see. Property is adjacent to the nature conservation, can never be built on, and then we shaded it in yellow. Then the last application was for the existing home, and the existing home was built in 1950, and the Farinos have owned it since 1999, 20 years. It has a CO, it fully conforms, there is a swimming pool, it also has a CO. The garage did not have a CO because there was a split in the ownership, but amongst the whole family. At the time, they had put it in a trust, and they never got the CO, where we've submitted plans to the town of Smithtown Building Department, and we will have it. The problem was that it had to be accessory to the main structure, and therefore it had to be in the same name. You can't get a CO for a garage that was built in 1950 or 1950 plus. So we feel, and with the existing home, we will not be doing any other construction whatsoever. So we're not adding anything. We know we're in the river corridor. It fully conforms. And in order to have its legal frontage, even though it's a flag lot, and we don't allow flag lots in Smithtown, at the suggestion of the planning department, we'll have an easement that the 40-foot road frontage, in order to get to the existing dwelling, would also have 40 foot by an easement, and it's shown on the map. Hopefully the board understands, or any questions, I'll be more than glad to answer. Somewhat complicated, but actually it was 6+ acres, 6.2 acres, and I think we're trying to keep it all. We're in all of our maps that we filed, as you could see, the lighter green, or where it becomes the wheat color, where we're trying to show the cattails, we're above elevation 10, we're more than 100 feet from the river, and we filled out all the necessary river corridor paperwork also.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application? No? Planning?
Thank you.
No? Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Come on up, please.
Good evening.
Good evening. Could you state your name, spell your last name, and give the address for the record, please?
Richard Smith, S-M-I-T-H, and I live at 26 Somerset Drive, adjacent to 30, this property.
Okay.
I know when I received the variance for the meeting tonight, to myself, it was pretty vague as to what was going on. It appears now that he wants to build 3 houses on these properties. He wants to divide it into 3 pieces of property, is that correct?
There's one existing.
2 houses.
2 houses.
On the first 2 front lots.
Yeah.
And then on the rear lot, what was gonna the third lot, what was he gonna do with that? You have the lot the house is on,
Yeah, that's staying as is.
and the property next to that, he has sectioned off. That's another lot.
No, not being touched.
I showed it on the map. You have the house on the one lot, then right next to it, you got the black lines that give a third piece, and then you have the 2 front pieces, is that correct?
Just the front.
Just the front.
That's all we're talking about tonight.
Just the 2 front
The two-
pieces.
And the existing house and the property is not being touched.
Okay, what is right now I know the parkland's on the other side. I have the property behind it. I have the property to the left of it. Cul-de-sac, you're gonna have to take a lot of your
Excuse
own
me.
property to make a
Can you
cul-de-sac.
talk to us?
He'd have to make a whole, take a lot of his property to make a full cul-de-sac, because the people own the property across the street. You can't take their property to make a cul-de-sac, to make that larger. The wetlands right down the road, I know I just had variances done. I have not variance, I just redid my house. The DEC, I have to go through all their regulations because of the wetlands and runoff water, which I've complied with, and I've complied with everything. The town, I got my COs on my house. The property, yeah, I'm not sure what size homes they're putting in, what size they want to put in, how many square foot houses
We'll
they're
ask them.
building. I'd like to know about that, and the impact on the neighborhood itself, and the wetlands, and the wildlife, which are on both sides of the property.
That's not going to be touched,
Yeah.
just the property.
But right now, it's like a easement, the parkland actually surrounds the property. It's on both sides. It's in back of my house, I have a half acre, so from my house to the river, which would be that little house there, all the way down the river is parkland. And this property is the only piece of property that splits that parkland. So when you build the 2 houses on the front, now you're taking more of that away. So,
All right.
I don't know what else, it's just the dividing up of those properties. I can't see putting 2 big houses or 2 houses on that land,
Yes.
so. And with that third piece of parcel of property in the back, would that ever be developed?
We will ask them.
Would that ever
That's
be
not here,
developed?
that's not on the agenda for tonight, it's just the front.
Just, the 3 variances are just for the front?
Yes.
One's for like the driveway area, his
The
driveway,
existing house,
the existing house,
and then the 2 proposed
the
homes.
2 front
in the
parcels.
Yes.
And you have also the parcel in the back.
Excuse me, just, the paperwork is very
One
vague.
one second.
Yeah.
Let me finish with this
Okay.
gentleman,
Yeah,
then you can come up.
It's just vague the way it's worded. to
I'm
me.
sorry?
It's vague the way it's worded
Yeah.
on the
Yeah,
property.
sometimes it is. But we'll get clarification for your questions.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Would you like to?
This is my father-in-law, and I happen to work for an architecture firm, and the
Well,
paperwork.
wait, you want to speak?
Yes, my name is
Okay.
Ralph Michelle. I live actually down the block from here.
Okay, can
It's
you
not
spell
within.
your last name, please, for the
Michelle,
record?
Michele.
Thank you.
I've been to several zoning board meetings in my life, and this
The
is very
address-
vague on how
address.
this is, what would
Oh.
potentially be going on here.
One second. Your address for the record?
7 Old Landers Court, Smithtown, New York. So,
Okay.
just in terms of, I'm sure people, when they get this, have no idea what this means. And the first word, when I heard here, that you potential to build a home, there's nothing in here that this property is being subdivided and/or that you're going to be building a home. So if the intent is that you want to build a home and subdivide, because that is going to subdivide the front and the back, correct?
I believe it's existing lot.
So they're separate lots?
This is
So,
already an existing subdivision.
so there's nothing in here about building a home on those lots? Just that you're
In
basically
the
asking?
ad for the 2 vacant lots, it says for a proposed single-family residence.
It just says lot reduction from, just says what it's for.
From 43,560 square feet
To
to
40,000.
40,531 square feet for a proposed single-family residence.
That's not on here.
That was in the ad.
You want to see this?
Sure. This is the advertisement that was put in the local paper for the first lot, for the second lot.
The paper, if they went in the mail, doesn't have that. So the people
That's
getting
not,
this
yeah,
leading
that's not what
information-
we send out, so.
Okay, but the people who are getting this are getting misleading information. So the mailings
Okay.
are going out that are different than what you have. So if people are gonna open this mail up and say, yeah, all right, no big deal, but there's no idea that there's a house being put on there, right?
Okay, we'll look into that, and if it's our mistake, we'll make sure it's corrected.
Because then I'm sure other people in town are not gonna know, or the neighbors are gonna know that this is more impactful than they thought it's gonna be. I mean, we have DEC issues, you know, next door, there was an immense amount of problems just getting drain water off of a house. So, being this close to the Nessaquag River and the amount of animals that you have in the back that are using that, the concern is also that that back lot would be potentially built on. You can see that all the homes are on Somerset. This is the only home that's up against the water, and it's been cleared to the water. There's nothing else on that, on the south of those property lines, except for that one lot next to it. So the concern is that after you have these 2 homes on here, that someone can potentially come back in, use the driveway that's existing as an easement to the existing home, cut into the third, and then ask for permission to get into that third lot.
Okay.
It can be asked for.
I guess anything could be asked for, but
Has to
it's
come back.
it's not being asked tonight.
Right.
We're just dealing with the front. We will ask Mr. DeCanio if he has any future plans. Maybe that could satisfy your needs.
Right. Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Good evening.
Good evening.
Could you state your name, spell your last name? and
Sure.
your address?
William Scopatone, Scoppettone, 27 Somerset Drive, Smithtown, New York. Well, my major concern is we live right across the street and face this property. Now, this property, Susan has been there, my wife has been there for 23 years. And basically, we're looking at a cleared lot in a nature preserve area. And now we're going to be looking at 2 homes being built right in front of us, which I believe severely impacts the neighborhood and does not conform to the neighborhood whatsoever. So that's my major concern and my objection to that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anyone else? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Levins. I live at 25 Somerset Drive, Levins, Levens.
Thank you.
We've been in the house about 26 years. My concern is the neighborhood. It's very unpretentious. It's not a development. They were all homes that were built by individual people. So my concern is really the character of the neighborhood. I wouldn't want to see this impact that.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? No one else? All right, Mr. DeCanio?
Yes, I'd like to address, there was quite a few things, I think some misstatements or clarification. I'm very familiar with the Smith adjacent neighbor to the property. First off, any of the language was given to us, what we put in the denial came from the building department and came from Agnes at the planning department. So it was worded correctly. We're here, the reason, not for the houses, as Mr. Chairman brought up, we're here to say that there are 2 legal lots fronting on a street that conform with the filed map that really meets the character or exceeds the character of the neighborhood. As far as building individual homes, I've built more than 2,000. Believe me, they will be custom homes if we build them. And there would be 2, and we're not asking for any more than 2. And we're stating it on the fact that there are 2 lots on a filed map, not changing any of the lot line that was established in 1948. With reference, and I did bring it up, to Mr. Smith saying that there's a potential of other lots in the rear, that's not the case. The only reason it had a separate lot from Dr. Mullinoff, who originally owned it since 1950 until 1959, was that the Farinos, doing family estate planning, had established a family trust, but they didn't realize it was a revocable trust. So they've agreed that it's going to be in one name. Pamela, right now it's in Pamela Farino, and it can never be further subdivided. It's one lot without any construction or any potential of future construction. And it could be a condition of the board, and I can't see. So really what we're talking about here is 2 lots plus the 1 house that always existed with its COs, conforming with DEC most certainly, never touching the nature preserve that we've highlighted over here. And as I said, it will be built or exceed whatever is there. And we always look for community input. So when the time comes, if this board approves that we have 2 legal lots, which we feel strongly that we do, and I believe the planning department agrees, once that's established, when we go for building permits, we will not be asking for any variances. I'll be more than glad to meet with the neighbors, as I always do, and they will be custom-built, conforming approximately 3,000 square feet to what they have or better. And it's not going to be a development, it's only 2 lots, and it's only going to be on the file map. There was another Mr. Smith brought up that we're going to, or his son-in-law. The cul-de-sac fully conforms to what the town established. We're not taking any other land. It was built as a half a cul-de-sac. Now, we're going to bond it and build it exactly the way the file map was done in 1948 and how the highway department and the planning department and the building department allows us to do. So you'll have a full radius cul-de-sac, but not a huge one because it's a dead-end street, exactly with the map when it was filed in 1948. So I think that hopefully I've answered their questions. Be more than glad always to meet with them privately if they'd like, or within the board. But we're asking tonight, and I think it's pretty clear, and I think Mr. Chairman brought it up, we're establishing that there are 2 legal lots and only 1 lot forever that establishes no construction, as you stated, of the existing structures that are there. Not even a patio is going to change. So hopefully the board and the community appreciate those as facts. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a motion, close the application, please? So moved. Second. Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Now, these
Don't
are
forget
all
your
used
easel.
to- Wait a minute.
This is 8686.
We're trying to, wait, we're trying to put this into separate ones. There's 3 separate ones. There's this.
Is that 87?
What do you want?
This is
8.6. Okay. So that goes to this. And that goes to this. 8.6.
look at that right there. That's 87.
8.7? 8.6. Okay, this goes to 8.6 also? This goes to, oh,
Steve
all
just,
8.7?
Steve's just putting it in the file together.
Oh, he is, okay. Okay.
No.
Do they know that?
This is what? Okay.
You bring a lot of papers with you, huh?
The next case on the agenda is case number 18189. 4 Kings Court. The location of the property, the north terminus of Kings Court. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a variance to permit a fence greater than 4 feet in the front yard for an existing 6-foot fence.
Good evening.
Good evening. Xiaolan Chen, 4 Kings Court, Kings Park, New York 11754. I'm here for variance to permit a fence that's greater than 4 feet in my front yard that's already existing, which is the green line. Bought the house back in September last year. It's a brand new construction. The fence was already existing at that time. Nobody said anything. Builder did not say anything. In April, we got a complaint from a neighbor about the fence greater than 4 feet, which I don't know why, because I'm in a cul-de-sac and also a dead end, as you can tell in the first picture. This fence does not affect anybody's living. It promotes privacy for all the surrounding neighborhood, and I believe there shouldn't be any problem with that fence. Hopefully I get a permit for that.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions? Planning?
No comments?
No? Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard in this application? Come on up, please. Good evening.
Good evening. Michelle Gary, 32 Old Northport Road, Kings Park.
Can you
I'm
just-
actually the neighbor.
Can you just spell your last name,
Yeah,
please?
Garrry.
Thank you.
I'm actually the neighbor that filed the complaint against the fence. No offense to the new property owners. I had an issue with the fence when the builder was building the house. He explained to me that the fence was temporary. I watched them put the fence in. The posts are not cemented in. They took a post hole digger, they dug some holes, and they put the fence in. He explained to me that it was temporary because he was trying to give the illusion that there was, I guess, more privacy in the cul-de-sac. It's pretty private. My issue with the fence is that I have a 4-foot chain link fence, so now this stockade fence is right up against it. So one of my issues is the fact that it's ugly, and just to be totally honest, it's an ugly fence. It's the cheapest fence that he could have possibly put up there. And again, like I said, these people have, they didn't put the fence up, and I don't really have an issue with them, and I don't want to be a bad neighbor, but the builder did tell me that it was temporary and it was coming down. The only thing that I can say is that even though it's a cul-de-sac, there is a good amount of daily vehicles that come in the cul-de-sac and turn around, and sometimes I guess people come in and eat their lunch in there or whatever. So I don't know. It's just it's a big fence, and it exceeds past the front of the house. I never went out and measured it, but it's got to be close to 40 feet, maybe, past the front of the house. It's pretty far beyond the front. Personally, I would be happy if some of the sections were removed, and if they wanted to, put them across their front so they would have privacy in their backyard. But it's just a single fence that goes in one direction for no apparent reason, that the builder put and told me that it was going to be temporary. So that's my complaint.
Okay.
And I would request that the variance not be granted. It's a large fence, it's a stockade fence, and it just doesn't, nobody else has a fence like that in the neighborhood.
Well, it's a 6-foot fence, that's why he's applying for a variance.
Right.
But he has a right to put a 4-foot fence up there,
Okay,
stockade or whatever.
that's fine. 6 feet is excessive, I think.
What's that?
I think a 6-foot stockade fence is excessive.
Oh, okay. All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else? Would you like to come back and answer her concern about your fence?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a 4-foot fence, I'll be overlooking her property every day when I walk into my house because I believe the fence is protruding through 50 feet in the front of the house, and that really promote the privacy because if it's 4 feet, I can obviously look into her property and they have a pool, I'll be looking at them swimming. You know, I believe this fence really is helping with the privacy, because, but it's a dead end. I don't think how that's gonna affect any drivers that's coming to make a turnaround because it's a dead end anyway. There's, you know, it's my property.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Question for you? Yeah. On the, where the fence actually goes to the road, it kind of extends significantly past even the front of your driveway. So, is there a reason that you couldn't lower the end 2 or 3 sections to 4 feet?
We were there, it doesn't.
Because it's basically. See how in that, I guess it would be.
There's really no trees or anything to, like I said, privacy, you know, 4 feet. They're probably right across from right next to the fence. If you take it down, I'll be looking.
Yeah, but I'm looking at it where it's past the end of your driveway in the cul-de-sac where, you know, it's almost.
That's also part of the property right across there.
Yeah, no, it just doesn't look right to me. It kind of extends out into the middle of the cul-de-sac where your property is, kind of your side yard and front yard is there. Would you have a problem with putting, say, and I also noticed there's like 3 or 4 pine trees you have up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, we don't generally grant 6-foot fences right up against a road like that. I'm just trying to see if there's a,
It's not really a road, it's a dead end.
that's a road.
Oh,
Okay, thank you.
No. One opportunity. All right, can I have a motion to close the application, please? Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18190, Michael Muhlenberg, 87 Wesleyan Road, Smithtown. The location of the property, the east side of Wesleyan Road, 98 feet north of Cornell Drive. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard from 50 feet to 40 feet for an existing 228 square foot sunroom.
Good evening.
Good evening. Michael Muhlenberg, 87 Wesleyan Road, Smithtown.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm requesting a variance for the backyard for a covered porch. I enclosed a covered porch.
It only comes out 6 feet from your house, right?
Excuse me?
Comes out 6 foot from the house?
The top part has already had a variance done. I just enclosed the bottom part.
Oh, okay. All right. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application? No. Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please? Moved and second, all in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Here comes Wendy's.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18191, Wendy's Properties, 2180 Jericho Turnpike, Comac. The location of the property, the southeast corner of Jericho Turnpike and Veterans Highway. The property is zoned WSI. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum required truck loading spaces from 1 to 0, reduce the minimum required distance for an accessory structure to the rear lot line from 10 feet to 0, increase the maximum area of ground sign from 40 square feet to 56 square feet, increase the number of ground signs from a maximum of 1 to 3, increase the maximum height of a wall sign from 15 feet to 22 feet, increase the number of wall signs from a maximum of 1 to 6, permit 5 wall signs not to face a public street, increase the maximum height of a wall sign from 15 feet to 18 feet, and increase the maximum height of another wall sign from 15 feet to 21 feet.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
How are you? For the applicant, David Altman from the Law Office of Brown and Altman LLP, 538 Broad Hollow Road, Suite 301W, Melville, New York. Just a little record keeping, put on the record, I had handed in the affidavits of mailing and posting, and have also provided the certified mailing return receipt cards. With me here this evening, I have Dan Pedersen, who is to my immediate left and hiding behind the easel to my immediate left. Dan is with Lauro Group, and he is the project civil engineer. I also have with me John Harder from Atlantic Traffic, who is sitting behind me to my right. John is our project traffic consultant. And I also have with me tonight Chad Adams from Wendy's Group. As mentioned, the property is located at 2180 Jericho Turnpike in Comac, New York. Our property is currently zoned WSI, and it bears Suffolk County Tax Map Number District 400, Section 116, Block 1, Lots 2.1 and 2.2. The Wendy's restaurant, which is the subject of tonight's application, I believe is situated on the westerly half of this site, which is Lot 2.1. The easterly half is currently occupied by a Boston Market. I'll note for the record that the property has historically been used as a Wendy's now for the better part of 22 years, I believe the property cards indicate, circa 1998, that C of Os were issued for the Wendy's restaurant. And the property card obtained from the town building department further indicates that this site has historically been used for restaurant and food type uses since circa 1970. The site itself, including the Boston Market piece, is a little over 60,000 square feet in area, 60,190 to be exact. That portion of the site that contains the Wendy's is approximately 0.83 acres. That part of the site which has the Wendy's on it as well, and if you actually look up at the PowerPoint on the wall to my immediate right, on the western half of the site, it has frontage on Jericho Turnpike along its north lot line of about 156 feet and a lot depth of approximately 195 feet. The existing Wendy's restaurant is a little over 3,000 square feet in area and has 90 seats in it. The existing restaurant, and I wish if I look at the aerial to my immediate left again, is, if you look on this area, you can see is much closer to the west lot line, a little over 20 feet off the west lot line. We are going to be moving the Wendy's restaurant and building a new one in place instead, which is approximately 550 square feet smaller, a little over 2,400 square feet in area, with only 40 seats, and we're going to be moving that to a more central location on the site. as you can see again up on the PowerPoint up on the wall, and then on the color site plan rendering to my immediate left. It's a smarter designed. It's more reflective of today's counter service fast food restaurant type uses. In connection with this, you'll note on the site plan that the new restaurant will provide for a drive-through with a 12th car queue in a counterclockwise direction with both a pay window and a food service pickup window on the east side. In addition, what doesn't exist today, we will be adding with the relocation of the restaurant, which is a pass-by lane which circles around the site such that vehicles that elect not to make use of the drive-through lane, and the drive-through lane will be sufficiently delineated as will be explained by Mr. Pedersen, can either circle around the site and actually cross over to the Boston Market since there's cross-access. They can actually also leave through a southerly cross-access point existing on the site today, and we propose to maintain that to the neighboring radiological use to the south, or they can actually circle around all the way back to Jericho Turnpike. And one of the things we're going to be doing in connection with the new restaurant is modifying the existing curb cuts. Right now, there are 4 curb cuts on the site, 2 full movement on the middle and easterly portion, and then an ingress only on the westerly. And in between that and the full movement, there is an exit point. The exit curb cut is going to be closed. So in terms of the relocation of the building, the drive-through, and the pass-by lane, it places motorists more directly at the full movement curb cut mid-block on Jericho Turnpike. With regard to the variances that are sought here this evening, there are a couple as it relates to accessory structure and loading stall. Right now, one of the variances that we are asking for this evening relates to the dumpster enclosure at the southwest corner of the property. The applicant is required to maintain, I believe, 10 feet. We're asking for half a foot. And I will note that the existing dumpster enclosure is largely in that existing location. It's roughly 2.5 feet off the south lot line and about 5.5 feet off the west lot line. We're proposing to keep it in roughly the same position and moving it back just slightly. Moving it back slightly accomplishes 2 things. It allows for the reload of the building, the installation of the drive-through lane, but more importantly, the pass-by lane as well. The other variance that's being sought tonight, non-sign related, is with regard to the waiver or the requested waiver of a loading stall. We're required to have 1 loading stall. We're proposing none. Part of the reason for proposing none, again, is the reconfiguration of the site, the more central location of the restaurant on the western portion of the site, the drive-through queue, the pass-by, and in addition, code-compliant on-site parking. One of the things I will note is that the Boston Market portion of the site, or the easterly half of the site, no changes are proposed in connection with that building. With respect to the loading stall, we'll note that deliveries will be made during non-business hours. Business hours as they relate to the Wendy's restaurant, as I understand, as to the dining room, are Monday to Sunday from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., with the drive-through window remaining open until 2 a.m. And as to the Boston Market, I understand that business hours, I believe, are 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. Deliveries will be made during non-business hours such that there will be no interference with either customer or employee use of the site. There are a number of variances as they relate to signage. I'm going to run through them briefly, and to the extent that the board has any questions, of course, I'd be happy to answer. The first variance relates to the number of ground signs. The applicant is proposing 3 ground signs, and I'll just touch on that for a little bit. There's an existing ground sign right now on the road frontage at Jericho Turnpike. The applicant proposes to maintain that ground sign. The other 2 ground signs relate to the menu boards, which will be stationed on the south side of the drive-through queue. One is a pre-menu board, which is denoted as B1 on your sign plans. It is approximately 11.74 square feet in area and a little over 6 feet in height. And then there is a full menu board just thereafter, which displays all of the Wendy's menu offerings. That menu board is a little over 55 square feet in area, almost 56, and is approximately 7 feet 2 inches in height. I understand that the main menu board is the exact same size as what exists today. Another variance sought with respect to ground signage is with respect to the main menu board relates again to the size of the sign, where 40 square feet is permitted, 56 is proposed, and again, it's my understanding that is what exists today. It's a necessary component to display the full array of Wendy's menu offerings. In addition, there are height variances with regard to wall signs. In fact, there are 3 height variances with regard to wall signs, and I'll go through them briefly. The first height variance relates to the wall sign on the north facade, where 15 is permitted, 22 is proposed. I will note that in this case, the building is set back fairly substantial from Jericho Turnpike. It's 50 feet. We do have the Taco Bell restaurant to our immediate west. So for eastbound traffic, it's sort of important to have that sign displayed at a reasonable height such that they can identify the Wendy's restaurant located there. With respect to the other 2 wall signs, variances are sought with respect to the wall sign on the east facade, where 15 is permitted, 18 is proposed, and on the south facade, where 15 is permitted, the applicant again is proposing 21. Again, it is part and parcel of identifying the restaurant and also consistent with the architectural features in terms of working the signage into the site. Other variances that were mentioned in the call of tonight's hearing relate to the number of wall signs. Where 1 is permitted for the overall facility, there are 6 wall signs proposed in total. Both on the west facade, there's 1. On the north facade, there is 1. And then on the east facade, where the drive-through, both payment and pickup windows are, there are 4 signs in total. And I believe those are reflected on the sign elevation plans that have been submitted to the board. Okay. With regard to the sign variances, I will note for the record that the sign variances that are sought here tonight by the applicant are generally consistent with other variances that have been granted for other similar counter-service fast food restaurant type uses within the town. And I'm just going to mention those particular variances and hand in copies of the grants. We have BZA case number 15587 dated January 9th of 2008. That's regarding the McDonald's over at 517 Route 111 in Hapog. Then we have BZA case number 16804, granted October 24th of 2012 with regard to a Taco Bell at 773 Smithtown Bypass. And then BZA case number 2-12892 of January 29 of 14 with regard to a BK restaurant, Burger King, located at 942 West Jericho Turnpike in Smithtown. And I will hand in copies of those grants. Hopefully I have them all here. I do.
Thank you.
Before I sum up, Mr. Chair, I'm just going to also hand in copies of the traffic study prepared by Atlantic Traffic and Design dated June 25th, 2019. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And copies of the traffic.
Okay.
In sum, this is an existing in-kind replacement, albeit with a frankly smaller restaurant with fewer seats, built and designed with the input from the town planning department, might I add, so thanks to the folks at the planning department, to reflect the current trends and demands of the contemporary counter-service fast food restaurant. The development patterns in the area have been largely established and existing for the better part of at least 5 decades at this site. There'll be no adverse impact to the surrounding community. Existing services relative to this site are already in place, and we ask that the board look favorably on the application. To the extent the board has any questions of myself or of Mr. Pedersen regarding site and design or of our traffic engineer, we're happy to answer those questions.
The quality sign, is that something new? I've never seen that on a Wendy's before.
The lettering in the middle, the
Yeah,
wording,
Quality service that doesn't cut corners is a recipe?
that is somewhat new. It's in between the two service windows, both the pay and the pickup.
Okay.
It's internal, obviously, it would face due east towards the existing Boston Market facility.
All right. Does anyone on the board have any questions? No. Planning?
Just one question. You mentioned earlier that there were 4 signs on the east facade of the building. We're looking at the proposed elevations and only see 2. Can you tell us where the other 2 signs are?
What? There's actually, I'm sorry, there's actually 3, and there's one on the very back.
Do I have to be sworn in, or? Daniel Pedersen, 1601 Veterans Memorial Highway, Islandia. There are actually 3 signs on the east elevation. The one that you're probably missing is a small thank you sign. It's about 2 square feet post the pickup window.
Oh, here.
It's a vertical sign.
Is that like a blade style sign?
No,
No?
it's
Just a-
pretty. It's like a flush mount that just says thank you vertically down the sign. And then the quality, and then the Wendy's sign.
Do you want to see it here, honey?
What's that?
You want to see it right there?
No, I see.
Okay.
That was it?
Is there are you done with your presentation?
We are.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So,
Moved and second, all in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Yeah,
You do the same.
Mr. Chairman, the next 2 applications on the agenda are concurrent applications. They were heard before the board going back several months. There was a question about a pending abandonment for a paper street that the 2 proposed lots are sitting on. If you'd like, you can handle them as in one hearing as opposed to 2.
Yes.
Okay?
Would that be all right with you, John? Do it in one?
Okay, I'll just do the call of the meetings then. Case number 18057, Michael Stylerek, 269 North Country Road in Smithtown. The location of the property is the northwest corner of North Country Road and Lazetta Street. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard from 25 feet to 20 feet for an existing 175 square foot enclosed porch, and a variance to permit a fence greater than 4 feet in the required front yard for an existing 6-foot fence. The second application is case number 18058. Again, Michael Stylerek, 269 North Country Road, in the same location. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 25 feet, increase the maximum height of a retaining wall from 6 feet to 10 feet, for a 40-foot-long retaining wall, permit a proposed retaining wall to be constructed within 10 feet of any slope higher than 5 feet and having a slope greater than 25%, reduce the minimum required setback of a 6-foot retaining wall from the property line from 6 feet to 5 feet.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the town board, members of the board. My name is John Zolo, attorney here on behalf of Mr. Starlick. We were here on this case, and the presentation was done on November 13 of 2018 for both cases 18057 and 18058. And what I would ask the board to do is, I presented the application and the basis for the variances at that time, and one of the issues was we originally were going to proceed with the 280A application, but then after recommendation, meetings with the surrounding neighbors and planning, the 280A application has been withdrawn, and we were able to obtain consent of the surrounding neighbors for the abandonment. Presented and signed, I'm going to present to the board a fully executed copy of the abandonment papers, which has been approved by Mr. Peter Johnson, the assessor, and Rob Murphy, the highway superintendent. It's been executed by all of the surrounding neighbors, so I'll present that to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you. If the board wants, I have a copy of the abandonment map if you want to see that for any reason. But this abandonment, hopefully, with the presentation was put forward on November of 2018, that this board will be able to grant the variances that were outlined here this evening. It's existing houses. My client purchased this house and is looking to build on the back lot, and the frontage will be a common driveway coming off of Route 25A towards the back lot. Unless anyone has any other questions, I'm just going to rely on the presentation that was put forward back in November.
Anyone on the board have any questions? No. Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No? Can I have a motion to close the application, please? Moved in second, all in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, and good night. Bye-bye.
Good night. And that concludes our hearing for tonight.